Section 1. When life starts slipping out of rhythm. There are seasons when everything feels off. Not completely broken, but not quite right either. Your rhythm changes. Your routine begins to slip. Things that once felt structured start to feel scattered. You wake up without the same clarity. You move through the day without the same focus. And slowly, you begin to notice the shift. Your discipline weakens. Habits that once felt automatic now require effort. Effort that feels heavier than usual. Your focus disappears more easily. Your mind feels crowded, distracted, pulled in different directions. And even simple tasks begin to feel difficult. Things you used to do without thinking now feel like a struggle to start. You know what you should be doing. You know the routines that used to help you. You understand what needs to change, but doing it feels heavy. Like your body is resisting your mind. Like your energy is out of sync with your intentions. And in that tension, a quiet frustration begins to form. A question that keeps returning. Why am I like this right now? Why does everything feel harder than it used to? You may even begin to question yourself, your discipline, your consistency, your motivation. But what you are experiencing is not unfamiliar. Many people go through seasons like this. Seasons where everything feels slightly out of alignment, where the mind, the body, and the spirit do not seem to move together. And in those seasons, it can feel discouraging because you still care. You still want to grow. You still want to move forward. But something inside feels slowed down. Tonight, if life feels out of rhythm, if everything feels slightly off, do not rush to judge yourself. Do not assume you have lost your way. Sometimes, these seasons are not about failure. They are about realignment. A moment where something deeper is being adjusted, even if it does not yet make sense. So breathe, slow down, and allow yourself to recognize the season you are in without pressure, without harsh judgment. Because even when life feels off, God is still present in the middle of it. Rest. Section 2. When you feel like you're moving backwards. Sometimes it is not just that things feel still, it feels like you are moving backwards. You remember how things used to feel. There was consistency, focus, momentum. You were showing up, doing what needed to be done, making progress step by step. And it felt clear that you were moving forward. But now, something has shifted. The same discipline feels harder to maintain. The same focus feels harder to hold. The same energy feels harder to access. And instead of progressing, it feels like you are slipping, like you are falling behind, like you are losing what you once built, like you are starting over from a place you thought you had already moved past. And that feeling can be frustrating, because it does not just feel like a pause, it feels like regression. Like everything you worked for is slowly undoing itself. And in that space, thoughts begin to rise. Why am I going backwards? I was doing so well. What changed? But there is something important to understand. What feels like moving backwards is not always failure. Sometimes it is a hidden reset. A reset that does not feel comfortable. A reset that is not obvious in the moment. A reset that strips away pressure, that slows everything down, that forces you to reevaluate what you are building and how you are building it. Because not all progress is linear. Sometimes growth requires stepping back before moving forward again, like a foundation being strengthened before the structure rises higher. What feels like loss of momentum may actually be a deeper recalibration. A moment where God is allowing things to slow down so something stronger can be formed. Even if it feels like you are starting again, you are not starting from zero. You are starting with experience, with awareness, with lessons you did not have before. Tonight, if it feels like you are moving backwards, pause. Do not rush to label this season as failure, because sometimes what looks like regression is actually preparation. A quiet reset before a stronger and more stable progress begins. Even here, you are still moving. Even here, God is still working. Section 3. When your body fights your mind. There are moments when your mind is clear. You know what needs to be done. You understand your responsibilities. You can see the path you want to follow. But your body does not respond the same way. You want to work, but you feel drained, heavy, low on energy. You want to be disciplined, to stay consistent, to move forward with focus. But instead, you feel stuck, like something inside you is resisting movement. It creates a strange tension because your intention and your energy are not aligned. Your mind says, "Let's go," but your body says, "Not right now." And your spirit feels caught in between. This disconnect can be frustrating because it is not a lack of desire. You still care, you still want to grow, you still want to move forward. But something inside feels out of sync, and that tension is exhausting. It drains you before you even begin. It makes small tasks feel heavier than they should. It turns simple decisions into internal battles. And sometimes it leads to guilt, a quiet voice that says, "You should be doing more. You're falling behind. You're not trying hard enough." But this kind of season is not always about laziness. It is not always a lack of discipline. Sometimes it is a sign that something deeper needs attention. Your body may be tired. Your mind may be overloaded. Your spirit may be stretched. And instead of forcing yourself through exhaustion, God may be inviting you to pause, to realign, to listen. Because growth is not only about pushing forward. Sometimes growth is about understanding what is happening within you. Tonight, if your body feels heavy, if your mind feels ready but your energy does not match, be gentle with yourself. This tension does not define you. It is a season, a moment of misalignment that can be restored. God is not frustrated with your weakness. He understands it, and even in this place, He is still with you, still patient, still guiding you back into rhythm. Section 4. Confusion makes everything feel heavier. When direction feels unclear, everything can begin to feel heavier. Not just the big decisions, even the small ones. Simple tasks start to feel overwhelming. Things you would normally do without thinking now require more effort, more energy, more mental space. Decisions feel delayed. You second-guess yourself. You hesitate. You wonder if you are choosing the right path. And slowly, motivation begins to feel distant. Not because you no longer care, but because clarity is missing. Confusion has a way of draining energy, because the mind is constantly searching for answers, constantly trying to make sense of things, constantly asking, what should I do next? Am I on the right path? Why does this feel so unclear? And that internal searching can become exhausting, because without clarity, everything feels uncertain. And uncertainty makes even small steps feel heavy. But Scripture gives us a different perspective. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." Proverbs 3:5. These words remind us of something important. You will not always understand the season you are in. Not every moment will make sense immediately. Not every path will feel clear from the beginning. And that can feel uncomfortable, because we naturally want clarity. We want to understand what is happening. We want to know where we are going. But God does not ask you to understand everything. He asks you to trust Him, to trust His perspective when yours feels limited, to trust His direction when yours feels uncertain, to trust His timing when yours feels delayed. Because God sees what you cannot see. He understands what you cannot yet understand, and He is guiding you even in seasons that feel confusing. Tonight, if your mind feels tired from trying to figure everything out, release the pressure to understand it all. You are not required to have every answer. You are not required to see the full path. You are only invited to trust the one who does. Even in confusion, God is still leading you, quietly, carefully, faithfully. Section 5. God is still leading, even when you feel lost. Feeling lost can be unsettling. It can feel like you have drifted away from direction, like the path ahead has become unclear, like you are standing in a place without answers. But feeling lost does not mean you are without direction. It simply means you cannot see the full path yet. There is a difference, because direction is not always visible, and clarity does not always come all at once. Sometimes the path is not revealed in a wide, clear view. Sometimes it is revealed step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice. God does not stop leading just because you feel confused. His guidance is not dependent on your ability to see everything clearly. He continues to lead even when your understanding feels limited, even when your thoughts feel uncertain, even when your emotions feel unsettled. Because His role is not only to show you the destination, it is to guide you through the journey. And often, He does this in a very quiet way, not by revealing the entire picture, not by explaining every detail, but by giving you just enough light for the next step, like a path illuminated one step at a time, enough to move forward, enough to keep going, enough to trust that the path is still there. This kind of guidance requires trust, because it asks you to move without seeing everything, to take a step without knowing every outcome, to trust that God's direction is still active even when it feels hidden. Tonight, if you feel lost, pause for a moment. You are not without guidance. You are simply in a place where the full picture has not yet been revealed, and that is okay. You do not need to see the entire path to keep moving. You only need the next step. And God is faithful to provide that. Even now, He is still leading you, quietly, gently, one step at a time. Section 6. Discipline feels harder in certain seasons. There are seasons where discipline feels natural. Consistency flows easily. You wake up with clarity. You follow through with what you planned. You feel aligned, focused, steady. In those moments, progress feels smooth, effort feels manageable, and moving forward feels almost effortless. But there are other seasons where everything feels like resistance, where even small tasks require more energy, where starting feels harder, where finishing feels even harder. You may notice that the same routines that once felt easy now feel heavy. The same habits that once felt automatic now require intention. And the same discipline that once felt strong now feels inconsistent. And in that shift, it is easy to become discouraged, to question yourself, to wonder what changed, to think, why does this feel so hard now? But this kind of season does not mean you have become weak. It does not mean you have lost your discipline. It does not mean you are failing. Sometimes, it simply means you are in a heavier moment, a season where more is being carried, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And when life becomes heavier, everything requires more effort, even things that once felt simple. Heavy seasons change the way energy is distributed. They stretch your capacity, they test your endurance, and they reveal how much you truly need God's strength. Because discipline alone is not always enough in heavy seasons. What is required is deeper dependence, a reliance not only on your own effort, but on God's strength within you. A willingness to say, God, I cannot carry this in my own strength. I need your help in this moment. And in that dependence, something begins to shift. Because God meets you in your limitation. He strengthens you where you feel weak. He sustains you where you feel drained. Tonight, if discipline feels harder than it used to, be gentle with yourself. You are not broken. You are in a heavier season. And heavier seasons are not meant to be carried alone. Let this be a moment of deeper reliance, a moment where you lean on God more than before. Because even here, He is strengthening you. Even here, He is sustaining you. Even here, you are still moving forward. Section 7. You keep showing up anyway. Even when it feels hard, you still try. Even when motivation is low, you still show up. Even when your mind feels tired, you still attempt to move forward. And that matters more than you realize. Because in seasons like this, effort does not always look impressive. It does not always look strong. Sometimes it looks small, quiet, unnoticed by others. But God sees it. He sees the moments when you chose to try instead of giving up. He sees the effort behind actions that may seem insignificant to everyone else. He sees the quiet decisions you make to keep going, even when everything feels heavier than usual. In difficult seasons, consistency changes form. It may not look like perfect discipline. It may not look like constant energy. Sometimes consistency is simply this: showing up when it would be easier to stop, trying when it would be easier to avoid, taking one small step when the full journey feels overwhelming. And that kind of consistency is powerful, because it is not driven by feeling, It is driven by choice. A quiet decision to keep moving forward even when motivation is not there. This kind of effort builds something deeper: resilience, endurance, faithfulness. The ability to keep going through resistance. And God values that. Not just the results, but the persistence. Not just the outcome, but the heart that refuses to quit. Tonight, if your effort feels small, if your progress feels slow, do not overlook it. Do not dismiss it. Because showing up in difficult seasons is not weakness. It is strength in its quietest form. And every step you take, no matter how small, is still movement, still progress, still evidence that you are not giving up. And God sees it all. Section 8. Holding on to God's promise. You may feel off, out of rhythm, out of sync with the version of yourself you once knew. But even in this season, you have not forgotten what God showed you, the vision He placed in your heart, the direction that once felt clear, the purpose that still lingers deep within you. Even if your energy does not match it right now, even if your consistency feels weaker than before, that inner knowing has not disappeared. It is still there, quiet, steady, waiting. Because what God plants in your heart is not easily removed. It may feel distant in certain seasons, it may feel less active, less visible, but it is not gone. Sometimes purpose goes quiet before it grows stronger. Sometimes vision rests before it becomes clearer. And even in confusion, there is still a part of you that believes. A quiet belief that does not need to be loud. A steady thought that returns even when everything feels uncertain. God is not finished with me. That thought, that quiet conviction, is strength. Not loud strength, not dramatic strength, but deep strength. The kind of strength that keeps you connected to hope. The kind of strength that keeps you from giving up completely. Because even when everything feels out of place, something within you is still holding on. Still trusting that this is not the end. Still believing that God is still working. Tonight, if you feel disconnected from your usual rhythm, remember this. The promise God placed in your heart has not changed. Your current season does not cancel your calling. Your struggle does not erase your purpose. And your confusion does not mean God has stepped away. Hold on to what He showed you, even if you can only hold it quietly. Because that quiet belief is evidence that God is still at work within you. Section 9. Progress doesn't always feel like progress. Some progress is easy to recognize. You can see it, measure it, track it. It looks like results, achievements, visible movement forward. And in those moments, it feels clear that you are growing, that things are working, that your effort is paying off. But not all progress looks like that. Some progress is quiet, internal, almost invisible to the outside world. It happens beneath the surface, where no one else can see it, where even you may not notice it right away. Progress can look like learning patience in a season that is stretching you, holding your peace when frustration rises, choosing to wait instead of rushing. Progress can look like building endurance, continuing even when energy feels low, showing up even when motivation is not there, taking small steps when larger steps feel overwhelming. Progress can look like developing resilience, recovering after difficult days, starting again after moments of struggle, not quitting even when it feels easier to stop. These forms of progress do not always feel productive. They do not always come with visible results. They do not always bring immediate satisfaction. And because of that, it is easy to overlook them, to think that nothing is happening, to feel like you are standing still. But just because you do not feel productive does not mean nothing is happening. God often works in ways that are not immediately visible. He builds strength before he restores momentum. He develops character before he increases capacity. He prepares the foundation before expanding the structure. Because sustained progress requires inner strength, and inner strength is formed quietly, over time, through seasons that do not always feel rewarding. Tonight, if it feels like you are not progressing, pause. Look deeper. There may be growth happening within you that cannot yet be measured, strength that is still forming, endurance that is still developing, resilience that is still being built. And in time, what is happening internally will begin to show externally. Because God never wastes a season. Even when progress does not feel like progress, it is still happening. Section 10. Reflection. What season are you in? Take a quiet moment and ask yourself gently, what season am I in right now? Not the season you wish you were in, not the season you think you should be in, but the one you are actually experiencing. Is this a season that requires clarity? Or is it a season that requires trust? Sometimes we expect clear answers in moments that are meant to stretch our faith. Sometimes we look for certainty in seasons where God is inviting us to rely on Him more deeply. Ask yourself honestly, am I expecting clarity in a season that requires trust? Now consider your energy. Have you been expecting consistent motivation without allowing space for rest? Have you been asking yourself to perform at full capacity while feeling mentally or emotionally drained? Sometimes we expect strength without restoration, output without renewal, movement without pause. And that creates tension within us. So ask gently, am I expecting energy without rest? Now turn your attention to how you have been speaking to yourself. Have you been patient with your process? Or have you been harsh, critical, frustrated with where you are? In difficult seasons, it is easy to become our own greatest critic, to measure ourselves against a version of life that is not aligned with the current moment. So ask yourself honestly, am I being too hard on myself in this season? Pause for a moment. Let the questions settle. You do not need to rush to an answer. You do not need to fix everything tonight. Sometimes the answer is not to push harder, not to force more effort, not to demand more energy from yourself. Sometimes the answer is to trust deeper, to release control, to accept the season you are in, to allow God to guide you through it at the pace He knows is right. Tonight, let go of unrealistic expectations. Let go of unnecessary pressure, and allow your heart to rest in the truth that God understands this season fully, even when you are still trying to understand it. Section 11. Closing Prayer. Father, you see this season clearly. The confusion that lingers in our thoughts, the tiredness that sits in our bodies, the lack of rhythm that makes everything feel slightly out of place. You understand what we are experiencing, even when we struggle to explain it. Lord, when our bodies feel heavy and our minds feel scattered, steady us. Bring calm to what feels chaotic. Bring clarity to what feels uncertain. When we feel out of sync, realign us gently, not with pressure, not with frustration, but with patience and grace. Help us trust you even when we do not understand what this season is doing, even when progress feels slow, even when direction feels unclear. Teach us to rely on you in ways we may not have needed before. Restore what feels weakened. Restore our discipline where it has faded. Restore our clarity where confusion has taken over. Restore our strength where exhaustion has settled in. But Lord, even before everything is restored, help us keep going. Not perfectly, not with pressure to have everything together, but faithfully, one step at a time, with quiet trust, with steady dependence on you. Remind us that showing up in this season still matters, that small steps still count, that imperfect effort is still seen by you. And tonight, as we lay down to rest, settle our hearts, quiet our thoughts, release the tension we have been carrying, and fill us with a deep sense of peace. The kind of peace that does not depend on everything being fixed, but rests in knowing that you are present. You are guiding us. You are strengthening us. And you are not finished with us. Amen. Proverbs 3, 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight.